Okay, this is the L&A Committee on August 21st, 2023 at 9:05 p.m. calling us to order. We've already done attendance. We have two items here. One is the noise ordinance, which we just discussed in the group, and the other is just us on safe and livable streets. Can we just go straight to a motion on the noise ordinance and put that? Yeah.
I move to
okay.
approve it.
And can I have a second? Okay. And do you want to have a discussion about noise?
I mean, I just would have a couple follow-up questions just to recap this bigger discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's take a second. I'm going to try and knock it out. Let's take a second.
I want to knock it out. I don't want to keep talking about this.
Why are you asking for a vote? Ordinance can't go on if you take that under.
We always vote on everything, don't we?
No.
We have to vote on it.
No, we don't.
We did the last time.
I don't recall. Think about it. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're making amendments, though,
Yeah, I
I would
think it's so
maybe
in flux right
abstain
now.
just because.
I don't think this is
Yeah.
override.
Okay. Because it's in flux at this point.
I mean,
Okay, so should we all just abstain?
Well, but did you want to have a discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of my questions before, one of them. So some of the changes, you're not sure yet about the changes, you're thinking about them, or you're still talking to the police about them?
I
Some of these-
still just need to hash everything out with my co-sponsors,
Okay.
not just me. So I have
Okay, so you're still
proposals.
thinking about it and
Yeah.
considering it. And there's been some suggested language for changes from your side and, well, your side from you and your group and the police that you're thinking about putting in, but you're not set yet on those.
The police didn't give me suggested language.
I thought you said.
No, I met with them and gave them my suggestions, which was an attempt to try to.
So they didn't offer up any other suggestions?
No.
Okay. So then the things that you talked about with them, you said they received well, or they thought?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to put those things in, or you're still thinking about it, you're going to talk about it with your co-sponsors?
I just can't speak for everybody, so
Okay.
we really need to talk about it and decide what everybody's comfortable with.
Okay, so we really just don't know the changes that you may or may not propose then. So it's kind of a little vague.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really nothing to vote on right now anyways.
And I just want to thank you for all the changes we've made since February.
Yeah,
There's so many changes and so many compromises, and you've listened to everybody, so thank you very much.
Any other conversation on this item? Okay, let's go to a vote, and people can abstain if that's what they want to do. All those in favor? Jill and Drew?
are we voting?
What are we
What are we voting on if we know it's going to be amended?
I thought we voted on every item every time, and I've been in this body for 16 years. We voted on every single item every single time.
How it
Is it the
is.
ordinance as we saw it last month? That's the,
It's the one in the packet.
okay, so it's the one that,
Tonight packet.
all right.
Pending, yeah, I think I will abstain. But yeah, but people can do whatever they want to do. We have two in favor. Any other in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Oh, we have one opposed. Sorry.
Ed's opposed.
Oppose at this point, yeah.
Okay, we have two opposed. Sorry. Okay, do you have them for the record?
Yeah, sorry.
And we have I think two abstentions. Two and two.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. We have Bill Gerber here. Bill, do you want to give us a presentation about your proposed ordinance?
Yeah, so I gave you packets with some excerpts, and you could pull this one out first. This is from the Plan of Conservation and Development, this one. So this was posted July 28th. And interestingly enough, it was posted the week after I sent you guys the draft of the ordinance. On page 49, they talk about the importance of bike and pedestrian infrastructure. So I don't want to dwell on that because it's great. On page 50, there's a discussion on safety and the feedback from the this particular section talks about the crashes in Fairfield and the safety issues which are on the map on the following page, page 51, 52, is the bicycle and pedestrian crash site. It's kind of hard to look at, but I think the more important part now is on page 53. As part of the POCD, they talk about the importance of complete streets. And I know if you haven't followed what complete streets are, that's something we're going to sort of define in a couple of minutes, but think about it as safe streets for all users. So streets that are constructed that balances the needs of walkers, bikers, people with disabilities, and drivers. The last paragraph says many communities across the country and state have started to advance beyond policies to the adoption of complete streets ordinances and design guides. These ordinances codify the specific roadway geometry throughout town, making clear how the network will accommodate all users. In addition, they often include specific guidance of how different street elements, such as traffic calming devices, bike infrastructure, and pedestrian enhancements should be included in future roadway designs. And what we have here today is an ordinance. I'd like to, but no, what we have here that we're discussing today is an ordinance. So some of the people in this room were very helpful to me, and I want to introduce them. So Bill Pollack he is a landscape architect, and he and Laura O'Brien were founders of the Bike Ped Committee and also helped write the Complete Streets policy. Sarah Roy was chairman of the Sarah Roy right there. Was chairman of the Bike Ped Committee. Anya Mezek is currently on the Bike Ped Committee, and Jeff Randolph is an architect, but also very involved in landscape architecture and is a real estate developer and very knowledgeable about the things that he needs to do for these big buildings that he puts in place for complete streets. On page 55, they talk about the feedback from the community input from the POCD discussions, and it talks about really the impetus for doing this, and again, it couldn't have aligned better with my reasons and what is in the draft ordinance that came out prior to this coming out, that these are major issues for people in Fairfield. Congestion, not feeling safe, biking and walking, and not being able to connect through Fairfield to open spaces, and not wanting their family members, their kids to ride bikes and walk because of the dangers of walking. So you just see that these are the comments made by people who participate in the process. The last page is the recommendations. And the recommendations align well with the ordinance as well. Continue to advance the recommendations of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And develop a complete streets ordinance and design guide, which is part of what we're going to talk about in a minute. So those are the major things I wanted to point out here, so that what we put together here with the help of this team, but also people who do this professionally, and also I got professional legal advice on this as well. What we put together here is essentially taking what is in our current policy and in our master plan and making sure that they actually get done, because currently there are plans that are by and large sitting on itself and not being implemented. So I was just going to go to this page, which would be in your packet. This page is from the Complete Streets policy, and there are 2 steps. Step 1 is on page 9, prepare for implementation. Step 2 is implementation. Very few of these steps have actually been implemented, and I would say none of them have been maintained. So if there was some efforts early on, they actually have not been followed through on. So we have a policy that we hold up as being important, and we have a plan that we hold up as being important. It's actually in the process of being revised, but we don't actually implement what's in those plans. So why is that? We don't have a focused group in our engineering department that only works on street safety or traffic planning. We've got people who are working on bridges, tide gates, resiliency, and this is just a part of their job, so they're unable to focus on complete streets. So our plan of conservation and development talks about the bikehead plan, like I mentioned. That was done 10 years ago. And complete streets policy that was endorsed by the Board of Selectmen is 5 years old now. And you can see from the comments and what I just handed out to you that the residents of this town are by and large still unhappy with the progress. So having these plans hasn't really helped us. And I don't know how anyone here feels about biking and walking other than the team here, but I'd be curious if you think we're in good shape, because I personally don't. I first started getting into this when I received an email from someone someone who lives on Villa Avenue, complaining about they've been trying to get help with speeding issues, and they couldn't get anyone to respond or come out and take a look at it. And they've been going, sort of back and forth with the police, and there were 2 major accidents in that area. So they were just asking for help. And I went out, we organized a walkthrough of the street. And Sarah Roy showed up at that event. And we started walking down the street, and they started explaining to me, some of the people there, well, the street very wide, it's conducive to speeding. There are things we could do to calm traffic. Some of the, like Sarah, some of the people who showed up actually knew this stuff, things that I'd never really paid attention to before. We then went to the next stage, which was Bill Hurley eventually did come out because this group made a lot of noise, and they did a walkthrough again. Had some very indecisive, maybe or not, who knows? I don't think we could put a stop sign in, but ultimately he found someone from University of Connecticut to come out and take a walkthrough, who works for DOT. She walked through the street around Lewis Avenue, around the curve, and she said something interesting. She said, this curve, no, we can't put a stop sign in, which is what that group had been asking for all along, and no one had really explained to them very well why they couldn't get it. But she said, you should bump out the sidewalk here, and that'll slow traffic down. And that requires concrete, building it out. And, the reaction to that by Bill Hurley was, no, we're not going to do that. We'll try painting a line first. It became really evident to me that this process is driven by a lot of things, but it's not really driven necessarily by the perception of danger by the people who live in areas where they feel people are speeding, and they feel that their children are at risk. In fact, in this place, there were 2 accidents where cars went through went through, one where cars went through a stone wall. So that really started this process, and that's when I started. This was, I think, August of about a year ago. We started putting together this draft, figuring out what is not being done in this town that's being done in other towns. And it became evident pretty quickly that we are not geared towards street safety. We do not have a street safety planning department. We don't have traffic plans. This is sort of a reactive process where people say no as many times as they can until the noise gets loud enough, and then it becomes yes, eventually maybe, or just no, leaving people very upset. So looking at the policy is no regulatory authority at all. And it actually states in the policy that it's just an advisory recommendation to the boards and towns, with boards and town officials with regulatory authority. And that the regulatory boards can take further action on the recommendations basically if they want to, which is pretty rare. It does use the word shall throughout the document, but the word shall is meaningless in this case. Looking at the bike ped master plan, as mentioned in the POCD, very little of it has gotten done. You can see painted pictures of bicycles all over town, but for most bikers, they need segregated bike lanes. The painted bicycles are maybe marginally okay for advanced riders. One other reason to do this now is there are federal and state grants that are being made available at a clip that we've probably never seen before through federal programs. And in order to take advantage of grants, you get scored. You need to show that you're serious. I think we did sort of look serious for a while because we had a policy early on that looked good, but the fact that it hasn't really been used very much probably is we're going to be passed by other towns. We are being passed by other towns. In fact, we just missed out on a pretty large grant, a regional grant, and we really don't know the reasons, but it was kind of surprising. So I think an appropriate question that you all should ask is, did I work on this with people in town? Did I work on it with traffic, police, with engineering? I guess zoning would be one. And my answer to that is no, by design. This was a grassroots project where we worked with people from other towns who actually are implementing the things that we're talking about. Because in this town, again, we've had 10 years of a bike ped master plan, 5 years of complete streets policy, made very little progress. And so I think we're going to have to really, in some ways, require the town to make this shift. For people who believe this is important, are going to really want this to happen. If for people that don't think it's that important, maybe the potential costs will keep you from voting for it. But ultimately, it's a value judgment, and not necessarily that useful to talk about it with people who are sort of stuck in their way of doing things for probably decades for some people. I just want to touch briefly on, we've had some deaths, recently, but, a few years ago, we had a couple of deaths that were not really talked about all that much. And one of them, is someone that Sarah knew or knows. Her name was Christine McMahon. She was crossing Mill Plain, where the entrance to 95 is. She was hit by a car turning left. That's a very dangerous place to cross, but you should be able to cross there. And from that time till this time, nothing's been done. Now, finally, there's some movement, but this sort of exemplifies the fact that Sarah had to go on record with the reporter, do an article about how nothing had been done in 3 years, or 2.5 years, is sort of what we're facing here. We're facing a town that doesn't really prioritize these types of things. So what are complete streets? So let's go to the ordinance right now.
I'd like to jump in. I have an anecdotal situation two years ago. I was contacted as an RTM member in District 9 because someone was hit in front of First Church in Town Hall. And as the RTM representative, it's not my job, I was contacted by St. Paul's Nursery School to get a crosswalk and flashing stanchions. I knocked every door in the neighborhood. I presented to the police commission. The police commission passed it unanimously, and still 2 years later, we are maybe just getting the crosswalk and still have no flashing stanchions.
Yeah, that's quite famous.
So it was passed by the police commission. I did all the legwork, very happy to do it for my district, but again, nothing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really good example. So what's a complete street? So the term right-of-way is probably better than the term street because it incorporates, sidewalks. So it's planned, designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in such a way to enable safe, comfortable, and convenient access by users. And if people already know this, then I can skip over some of this stuff. But we all know that historically our streets were made for cars, and people walking and biking were afterthoughts, and has made it really hard for older communities to make the adjustment to walkable, bikeable towns. It's much easier for new planned cities, but many of the cities in Connecticut and around the country are making this adjustment. And, I'm not here to tell you I know exactly, the technical ways of doing it, but I'm going to show you, that some people do this for a living. A lot of people do this for a living. You may have people that do it that know this stuff here, but they're not doing it full time. So there's some feedback.
Could people please mute on the phone? Thank you.
So complete streets. I just have some examples of what that might mean. So I just printed out something from Federal Highway Safety. These are just traffic. I mean, this is just a small sample of things that complete streets experts, planners will use for traffic calming measures, lateral shifts, chicanes. Is that the right pronunciation? Realigned intersections, traffic circles, small, moderate, and mini. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of them, but I do have. I printed out their toolkit for what this came from. So if you want to, you can take a look at pictures if you want of what some of these things are.
Where did it come from, Bill?
From the Federal Highway Safety. DOT, Federal Highway Safety. It's called the toolkit. Okay. And this is the traffic calming toolkit. So what are the benefits of complete streets? So if we just take what's in our policy, this array of benefits: healthy citizenry, economic development, reduced traffic congestion, more efficient use of the road, safer resources, increased use of public transit, less reliance on fossil fuels, and improved mobility, increased safety, more livable neighborhoods. But I think there have been studies done that there is a big payoff if it's done right. first of all, safety, less tragedy, less cost of tragedy and injury, less traffic. Traffic's become unbearable at times in Fairfield. We should be encouraging people to walk and bike, and once we get to a place where it's, well, we could probably start now, we should have bike sharing, which actually is listed in the POCD as existing, but it does not exist in Fairfield. And e-bikes, I think some people think that could be a game changer, because you can basically take an e-bike to work and just leave it out front of your business. You get more foot traffic to retail space, economic vitality, more business from out-of-towners, and get a reputation for being a great, livable place, which we do not really have. We are not ranked well as a walkable, bikeable town, and there is an organization that does those rankings, and we're pretty far down the list. So who does this work? Well, we've got people, let's go Pollock here, who's a landscape architect, but we have typically, it'd be like an urban, someone with a degree in urban or transport planning, engineering, landscape architecture, or related area, and they would have applied experience in transportation planning. I believe we do have people in town, working for the town, that could meet these qualifications, and really it's a matter of designating them with points. So why shouldn't we just let the town engineer keep managing street infrastructure the way he's been doing? My response to that is that between building bridges, installing sewer lines, tide gates, and everything else, I've heard 3 separate people call it a one-armed paper hanger. We are just not really structured to meet the needs for traffic problems right now. So there's also a general lack of understanding of who people should call when they do have traffic issues. And I really, this issue on Villa Avenue was eye-opening for me, because some people say you call PD, and some people say you call Bill Hurley, and we don't, for something this important, it is not a well-defined process. So going to the ordinance, a point right off the bat that this is not a terribly original piece of work. There's a lot of whereases on the front that are pretty, I believe, self-evident. There's a lot of definitions, many of which are used, all over. But there are some key things in this that build off of what we've already done. The Police Street policy and the bike bed master plan. The main objective is to reduce traffic congestion through improvements and safety, and expanded transportation options for users, reduce the frequency and severity of vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian-related crashes, deaths, near misses, property damage, and complaints by designing and managing rights of way to encourage travel at appropriate volumes and safe speeds. And we also need a complete streets coordinator, which is a generic name, whatever they want to call it. It's got to be a person who is in charge of street safety, and that people know is in charge of street safety and know who to call when they have a problem. So this has to be a full-time coordinator. We need a manual. Here, in the ordinance, we call it a right-of-way manual. I'm already on section 3. Called a right-of-way manual, and that is something that other towns put together. I'm sure they all steal from each other, but this is the one from Stanford, and and I can pass this around. It's essentially discussing the materials, you know, the types of street infrastructure and treatments and things like that that you would use in different circumstances. And the town would sort of set up a matrix of where different types of things would be used and for what reasons. Right now, we have nothing like this, but moving forward, we actually have to, and you know, I don't think they have to recreate the wheel because these are pretty. There's many of them out there. We would need to have a plan. So annually, the town should be able to, as part of the budgeting process, like sort of like the waterfall, we should be able to see what's going to be done in the coming year and how that fits into a long-term plan to get us where we want to go. So we're going to have a complete streets plan, which may be similar to the bicycle pedestrian plan, but we'd have to show what we're going to do when to get there. Because currently, if you look at I did a compare between the old bike ped plan and the revised one, and you know, the latest one was revised in March, and it's still draft. I mean, it's been 6 months, and it's still not even up on the web as a final form. So
does any department in town work on that, or just the bicycle
this one was
and committee?
the revised bike ped plan. Bill Hurley had a lot of input to that, so I think he keyboarded a lot of the changes in. But it's, you know, again, you have to dig for it. There was an announcement about it, but it's still in the bowels of the file storage. It's not even, you know, it's been 6 months and hasn't been moved anywhere. Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's some, it's really, so I did a compare doc, and, you know, a lot of it is just crossing out the stuff that didn't get done and putting in stuff that they'd like to do now. Really? Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not really a plan. It's certain, the most interesting thing about it is specific projects that he thinks we might be able to get done. Let's see. So the important thing is so right now we have this policy which is on the shelf, as I mentioned, and if they can get around to doing a project and they can get a grant, they'll do it. But it's piecemeal and inconsistent. What this ordinance does is whenever a new street improvement project is to be done, so if you're digging up a road, major, you know, resurfacing of the road, they have to consider complete streets infrastructure as part of that process. It's not something, DPW is not going to go out and start, you know, digging up roads and redoing them without collaborating with, or without instructions really, from the Complete Streets Coordinator, which I assume most likely would be under engineering. So if there's going to be, for example, you're redoing Reading Road, you would put in rumble strips. Or if you're, redoing Mill Plain, that's when you would put in, crosswalks that you can see that are, really visible and possibly some different types of things. I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this, but there are experts who can measure the benefits of different types of things, like when it comes to different types of islands and things like that. In what I just passed around, like it's still up there. So the main thing here is that these have to be done, or they have to be considered, evaluated, and incorporated into all material improvement projects. And if you are going to try to get out of that, you have to go through an exemption process. And you would petition, the town would petition the Bike Ped Committee, which hopefully will have a new name at some point, but we'll call it Bike Ped for now. But in here, I called it the Complete Streets Commission, which is, Bike Ped or any successor organization. And they would have to vote on exemptions. So and these are basic measures that in the Smart Growth America policy framework, they sort of score towns' complete streets policies based on certain things. So if you say may, you get 0 or 1, whatever. If you say shall, you get a 5, things like that. But the important things are you need to require that complete streets infrastructure must be incorporated in every street improvement project. It can't be haphazard. It won't work. Council will never do the work to make it happen if it's not mandatory. And you have an exemption process because in some instances it's not doable. At this point, I'm going to pause, and we can just start talking. We can just start asking questions.
Go ahead.
So a lot of streets in town are state streets. We went through this. My corner of Charm Village Drive and Post Road has had 2 deaths right at that corner, pedestrian deaths. And so we started talking to Bill Hurley. Jill and I were doing this, and now we actually have a plan and funding, so it's going to happen, I think. But it's a state street, so we couldn't incorporate. It was totally true that we didn't know who to go to,
right?
Either police or Bill or whatever. But then we had to get MetroCog involved, and Kristen got involved in getting funding and stuff like that. So I guess what I'm wondering is how effective other towns have been in working with the state with this. Like, can they really get the state to do this?
So I'm going to go on the record here and say I did call lawyers from other towns who said that is a lame excuse. That is actually truly, that is not typically a hurdle for state streets. And I really truly believe Bill is just overstretched.
You mean that towns
towns when they want something done?
Yeah.
Typically, they call the state, and they can get it done usually within a matter of weeks or maybe a couple months. That hurdle is really not there unless you're not really pursuing it.
If it's a safety issue, right?
Right. Well, I mean, all these are safety issues.
I'm out of order, but no, it's not just a safety issue. The Four Corners, other than Stratfield, Four Corners is much more than a safety issue. So it's the state has very progressive laws on these issues. Go ahead.
I was actually going to add to that state-controlled roads there is a culture shift happening at the state DOT to be much more open and receptive to making things safer. The majority of fatalities and crashes happen on state-controlled roads, and that's not just a Connecticut problem, that is a North American problem. But there is a culture shift, and there are many communities throughout the state of Connecticut that have done a much better job than our own in terms of working with the DOT to install safety measures. And actually, New Haven got the first raised crosswalk on a state-controlled road last year in front of a school through negotiating with the state. The city had to build it. They had to move some drainage, but they made it work. So that the children and families can safely cross the state-controlled road to get to school. And so it's absolutely possible, as Bill said, it's really held up more as an excuse not to take action. We did
but it requires work, right?
It requires work.
And money.
Yeah,
We're
fun.
working on it.
We did a safety, we did a walk audit with the state DOT in January 2022 of Route 59 Stratfield Road, and they were awesome.
Mm.
And they were making suggestions we hadn't even thought of that would make it even safer than what we were hoping for. So I think that it's a matter of building that relationship and pursuing it, as Bill said.
And having resources.
Yes.
The state has a complete streets policy.
Yeah, oh, no, it's a law.
It's a law.
Yeah, there's a
Just
complete
so
street
it's
law.
not like we're starting from
But they
zero.
can't force municipalities to do it, but, yeah. Go ahead.
Ed, let's start with, we're going to start with us, and then we'll come to you. Go ahead.
Going through this is wildly ambitious. I see your approach here as going to grassroots because you don't see anything happening. But with what I'm seeing here and what's involved, first of all, I don't see how. I mean, just the questions I'm coming up with right now, I don't see how this can be passed by our term. I don't. And if I'm not mistaken, any business before this body dies at the election. Is that true?
Essentially, yes. It's a new body, a new term.
Yeah, so I get what you're doing, Bill. I'm looking at this right now and I'm like, okay, how do I incorporate this? How do I integrate this? And I see what you're doing with it. You're holding a torch to town hall and saying, this is what the public wants. And I get that. I'm not necessarily a fan of that approach, but I get it. But I think you're at the stage right now where you need to go to the town and say, is this feasible? How are you going to integrate it? Without that, I'm just being a realist here, I don't see how this can be effectively passed by October. If this was a year ago, I'd say yeah. But I'm trying to be a realist in the room and looking at the runway. I just don't. Just from what I heard here, I see a complete streets coordinator. I see a complete streets commission. Okay, if a developer's doing something, no, this is all your field. I'm trying to understand it, but I'm saying if there's a problem here and the complete streets coordinator says, I don't think we need to do that, I'm going to file an appeal. It goes to the complete streets commission. Where did they come from and how do they have authority over a town department? I'm just saying there's a multitude of questions that are going through my head right now that I don't have the answer for. And I think that, I don't know, I just really think that departments need to be involved. But I get what you're doing. I do.
Yeah, and really when you boil down what I've done here, it's, it could have been probably 3 paragraphs. It's really, you're going to take one of your people and you're going to make them the point person, and you are going to do what you're supposed to be doing through the policy for every street that you make a material improvement on. And if you decide, and it's really the town, if the town decides, and Bill Hurley did express some, when we were at a forum organized by Sarah, and I mentioned that we're working on this. This was a while ago, but and Bill and I walked out and talked about it. He said, are you going to put sidewalks in, on Reading Road? I think he actually said that. And I said, no, that's, I understand your concern, but that's really not what this is about, necessarily putting sidewalks on Reading Road. If it's not feasible, and you wouldn't even need an exemption for that, but you would need an exemption to not incorporate any complete streets concepts into a major road overhaul. And there may be reasons that you would do that, and some of them are legal, reasons that you just can't. And those exemptions are actually listed out in the policy already. So really the issue here is we have a policy that's not being used, and we're telling the town it's time to.
Can I just get one example of what that might look like? Because to say this is wildly ambitious this is a 30-year journey we're starting on. It's a 30-year journey. We're not going to do anything next year. We'll do a little bit, but I live on Churchill. The road just got paved. It's 40 feet wide. People exceed the speed limit all the time. A lot of Orthodox people used to walk on that street. I'm surprised no one's been killed. What a Safe Streets policy would do is say, put fog lines on the road that are 10 feet wide, not put sidewalks in. We can't afford sidewalks. I'd love to put sidewalks in, we can. But when you repave the road, put a white line in that's 11 feet wide. That will make a place for people to walk. So when I walk my dogs, I don't have to wear orange. I don't get, I'm not trying to be killed. It says if we can afford sidewalks, if we have a grant, put it in. But when we do repaving, put a white line in there. It's a small step, but it's an important step. So we have to take one step forward to start on an ambitious journey. But right now, these fine people have been working on this for a long time. Nothing's happened. I've lived here since '95. Nothing's happened. Zero.
Can you guys are the experts. I don't mean to, but I do a lot of business in Fairfield County. What would you consider a highly ranked town in Fairfield County? Just one.
Well, I don't know if it's highly ranked, but West Hartford is so much better than
we don't have.
We are.
I said Fairfield County. I don't think West Hartford.
I think Norwalk has made a great deal of progress.
Yes, they have.
They have a traffic parking and mobility department, which deals with, they have the Department of Public Works that does maintenance, and the traffic mobility and parking department that does design. And they also have a bike walk commission that has voting authority and a budget. They have.
They're starting.
They're
You don't really see anything yet, but they're starting. It's a starting place.
It takes time.
When you see raised crosswalks, we don't have any raised crosswalks here. You see some paint buffered bike lanes. You see bike boxes. You see they've done some closed street events where they close the street for the afternoon to give people a taste of what it's like to experience the street without threat of being hit by a car. I think Norwalk is a really excellent. They have an awesome, actually, traffic calming guide on their city website where you go through. It's far more comprehensive than what we do here with our police commission, which, in my opinion, their process is convoluted and vague. But it's really like, what is the speeding issue? What's I'll send it to you all if you'd like. It's amazing. It's so user friendly and helps you guide you through the process of like what could be possible.
Closer to home, Bridgeport's way better.
Yeah.
Bridgeport has sidewalks. Bridgeport has trees. It's just a lot safer place to walk around. Bridgeport is light years ahead of us.
I got to tell you, Bill, it really concerns me that we haven't had town input.
Yeah.
More importantly, the town attorney. I get it. I'm relying on citizen volunteers here to tell me this.
But they're the ones that are implementing the policy.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to go to them after. Actually, I did send it to Bill Hurley and Jim Wang, but I will send it to, after tonight, I'll send it to Jim Baldwin and Chief Elmaris and...
Is that where you're supposed to start?
No.
I
mean, look at the noise ordinance. They spent a year building the ordinance. You said yourself it's the best written ordinance you've seen back in February.
Constructed. I didn't say I liked what was in it.
So you spent a year, but you spend a year writing the ordinance, and then we spent 6 months, tweaking it. So you can't present something. Well, only if you think we're going to vote on it before November, you can start crafting the ordinance.
I'm pretty sure it dies with the body.
Well, we could vote on it.
Just bring it back up again, ultimately.
Yeah, there's no way I would have gotten this far if I'd gone through the town. And I wasn't willing, because the town, quite frankly, is stuck. And if the town is stuck, I'm not going to go to people who are stuck and ask them, hey, do you want to work harder? Do you want to, there's an issue here with resources, and I can't tell Bill Hurley to reorganize his department. So this is what should be done, but I need to tell them to tell me why it can't be done, and to the extent Jim Baldwin wants to tweak something, obviously I'd be open to it.
Jeff,
the town doesn't know. It doesn't know.
Hold on. Jeff's up.
I am definitely in favor of exploring this. I think everything Ed said, the whole operational, getting everything into place, getting the ducks in order, absolutely concerning, a bit concerning. I think there's so much of this that would make Fairfield incredible. I think there's a lot of parts there. I mean, I'm a big walker, I'm a big biker, I like all over town, I don't like congestion, I don't like traffic, I don't like speeding. So I think the end goal of this, there could be a lot of good things in here. I saw the AARP,
yeah, that's a really useful.
Really good, right? It shows a lot of, you can see.
We want old people to, we want older people
see it all
to stick around.
You can visualize in town. I think there's a lot of good things. We just talked about it being, we're just starting what could be a 30-year journey. So let's go down that path, but to prove something and like all of a sudden in a month or two, this is what we have to do. I think there still should be input from, and I know you're talking about it, but engineering, yes, attorney eventually, but like engineering, zoning, conservation, economic development. I mean, there's a lot of different players. This is a big, big thing. A lot of it good. So let's get the different players involved. And it may be we're starting down the journey. We have to put all the pieces in place. It's not something we're just going to approve overnight, or I think that we should approve overnight, even though there's a lot of good things in it. Look at Reading Road itself. I mean, 2 deaths in the last year. It's awful. And that's just one example. You mentioned Bill Allen. There's a lot of things that would be great. So I guess when we put things like this in place, I go back to, as we did the noise ordinance, and I say, why do we need change? All right. So we have something in place that may not be good enough. What is the reason we need change? Is it not good enough because policy itself isn't good enough? Is there not enough money? Is there not enough manpower? If there were enough money and manpower, is that policy, the current policy, good? Could it create change and impact change in town? Is the policy as written decent if we just actually committed effort to it? Or is it just, are we saying, they're not going to do it? And maybe they've proven not to do it all. But could that infrastructure that's in place, document-wise and in terms of structure in place, could that be the right path?
Well,
that's all. I'm just thinking about everything here.
Sure. I hear you, but this is the policy is good. I mean, this isn't saying the policy isn't good. It's saying enforce the policy. Mm-hmm. So, and you can see from the Plan of Conservation and Development that, the next step is an ordinance. I think that's generally accepted, or you could have a policy that is like essentially the same as law, which West Hartford has a policy that requires exemptions. It acts like a law. So that may depend on the way it's treated by the administration.
Okay. Fair enough. But I think even as we talked about the noise ordinance, we're getting input from the parties that are impacted or which will play a part and a role in this. And there are many with this one. There are as many with noise, but there are many here. I think if we're going to put essentially a law in place, an ordinance, really it's important to know what do they all say. Is this doable?
So this is going to go out. I'll send it out to every department tonight when I get home.
I mean, that's important.
But
and then the other thing is, what is it going to cost? I mean, we have to hire a new person, okay?
No, we don't necessarily have. We have somebody. We do have somebody who could probably fill.
Well, what are the costs of doing this? Because I see some things. God, I wish those were in place when I'm riding my bike through Easton and Fairfield.
There will be a cost.
But
there will also be grants. Yeah, more grants.
I just think there's a lot to think about. I think the intention and the goal on this is like, wow, this could really make Fairfield great. But
that's the problem. When I hear these guys, it's just like, oh, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think
I'm not hearing from the people that have to actually implement it and do it.
Yeah.
And, maybe I'm going to sit here and say, oh, this guy said something in a meeting. I mean, why aren't we doing this? And then there's an explanation out there that I didn't even know. And it's like, oh, come on, Ed. I'm only hearing one side of it right now.
Okay.
Sure. But I
Point.
think, I mean, I got to.
Let's move on. Point made. I think Karen, you're up.
And I guess I can really see Bill's point that A, the policy, no one's done anything with the policy, and B, this is a whole new function in town. So people have to think outside the box. This is not really something that anyone else is doing now. So I'm not even sure. You have to talk to somebody, in town.
In this town.
In town, right. So it's not like
No.
like with the noise ordinance, we already have a noise ordinance, so we were amending it. We've already discussed the idea of even having one. This is a whole new concept, and I could see why you don't need to talk to other people. I think you get a lot of pushback probably.
The policy didn't change.
No, the policy isn't changed.
That isn't new.
Right.
It's just the implementation by bringing it up a level to an ordinance. And I haven't read it.
People are going to have to do some work.
Comparison back and forth, but almost the same words within the policy. It's just a different implementation.
Well,
And I'd like to say,
I drew off the policy and turned it into an ordinance, and that but the Complete Streets coordinator. I couldn't force the first selectman to hire somebody, but we do have someone that could fill that role. Probably they would have to, they would be forced to make her the Complete Streets coordinator. I would hope it would be, full time. That person would be the person you go to. And we have a mindset here, and having been through the process actually multiple times, and Drew alluded to as well, where someone has a problem, they almost get hit. They do get hit or whatever. You go, you complain, you wait, you hear back from, it's not possible. You get more people to help advocate you. 3 years later, you might get something done, which on Mill Plain, and that was someone died there. It's been 3 years. So it's a focus issue. It's not like it's magic to get a crosswalk done on Mill Plain across city. This is stuff that's done everywhere. But for some reason in Fairfield, we do not have the mindset to focus on this stuff. So it's really forcing the focus. Yes, there's an expense to putting a crosswalk in, but there's a cost as well to not having that crosswalk. Some of these things you can't really answer. If you don't have a crosswalk and someone gets killed and someone sues the town, I don't know how much that's going to cost. The lost quality of life, disability life years and things like that. I can't answer that. It's really hard to answer those questions. And what we're losing in terms of, likability of our town in general, and long-term value of owning a house here if you can't drive from one side of town to the other. These are hard to quantify. But you're right, there will be a cost.
I want to address
Drew,
the cost.
and then Joe.
If it is a 30-year program, what you're just doing is, if you're doing work on that street, you implement this, and you think about doing it then, so that you don't have to do it in 5 years. Exactly. So it's like a short term.
Example is one of the most infuriating examples in town. Churchill. I mean, what the hell were they thinking, right?
Well, it was business as usual. It wasn't a policy. So what's the first investment? Right. There's two things. Here's what's going to be expensive. One, to change thinking, and that should be free. And two, to send people to some classes, because
right. That's
I'm a registered architect. I'm a real estate developer. I work with traffic engineers all the time. They don't know the Bill Healy does not know the standards. He does not know the IT standards.
He is a busy dude. He's got a lot.
I'm not giving that any credence. He should know. He points to paint dimensions for road widths as a standard. He doesn't know any of the things in here based upon the feedback that I've gotten.
And it's a long-term implementation.
You take a couple of classes, you learn about it, you go to Norwalk, you go to New Haven, you go to West Hartford.
Go to
Which aren't the
Bridgeport.
best places in the country, but they're pretty good. It's education. We need to get people thinking differently here. They don't leave the town. They don't leave the county. They don't understand that we are way behind. We're way behind. I've lived in Fairfield since 95. I've lived for 7 years other places and worked other places. We are not protecting our property values by keeping up with other towns, other communities. We're not competitive. You look at what other towns are doing, they're doing more. We're not a safe place. We're not encouraging people to walk. We're not encouraging people to ride their bikes. It's terribly congested. It's dangerous. We've had 4 people die in a year. 4 people died in 2 years. 4 people died.
Jill, you're up.
And I just want to dovetail a little bit on that. We just, as a town, we have so much potential. Like, I know that there was this discussion about new communities being built. They have a better opportunity to build it the right way from the beginning. But from my experience, I actually think that some of the older towns have this built-in infrastructure that goes back to how people used to live, with porches and sidewalks and tighter communities. And we have that, and we have a nice downtown, and we have all these amenities, and people are out and walking. If we just implemented some of these things, it would be that much better. I just see the possibilities. And I disagree with Ed. I just think that it's not ambitious. I actually think that this is a very small step. We're just asking that a policy that was passed in 2013 and basically ratified in 2018 is actually implemented. And this policy is a slow policy, like everybody's been saying. It's attacking the really big projects and not anything like what I'm generally concerned about, and what we were talking about a little bit is like the constituent complaints where they have to go to the police commission and come up with their own solutions, which is totally backwards. Instead of having an engineer come up with a solution because a child is almost hit going to school to Sherman, the person who is complaining about it, who has no background and no education, is going to the police commission, who also, most of them don't have a background in this stuff, and they're needing to advocate for themselves. So we're not even talking about those slow changes, those micro changes that are I think that that's the largest part of the projects that we're talking about. The bigger projects come so slowly, but if we do them slower, we're going to ultimately catch up in decades, but we have to start at some time. And this is all that's asking is when we hit those big projects, these big renovations and infrastructure improvements, we have to implement these really important policies that's going to advance our town, for economic development, for our health and safety, and just it really, I think that it speaks to how we all want to live.
Ed, you're up.
Yeah, quick thing. Now, what you just said, Jill, I get it, but when you were talking there, and forgive me, I'm not the brightest guy in the room when it comes to this stuff, but when I hear things, I want to make sure that there's a logical flow to government, that there's a centralized authority that can deal with things, and what you just said about this can help crosswalks. Well, what I know is that the police commission's in charge of that. Now I have a coordinator and a Safe Streets Commission. Who's in charge of what? Now, that's what I'm saying. Is by having this discussion in this room, what you guys are saying makes absolute sense to me. But we're government. We have to make sure that it functions properly. So now, if I say, okay, LNA, we approve this tonight, and this goes out, somebody's going to ask that question. Well, somebody, where do I go? Do I go to the police commission, or do I go to the Safe Streets Coordinator, or do I go to the Safe Streets Commission?
When someone in District 9 wants a crosswalk, they come to me. Why should they come to their RTM rep so that I can get petition signed like I did for Beach Road, and then go to the police commission to get the crosswalk and the stop sign? It should go to someone who is trained.
I just don't want conflicting departments.
This
Yeah, no.
ordinance only addresses those large infrastructure
Well, I mean,
uses, right? It's
not huge, no. When you scrape a street and redo a street,
when you
it's not,
redo
that's
a
not,
street.
yeah, I
When
mean, that's
the
not
engineering firm, when it's on their list to redo a street, but it wouldn't be for
a
the,
pothole filling or patching
But I
or,
think what Ed's talking about, if I heard him correctly, is if somebody suddenly really desires to put in a crosswalk when the street isn't about to be done. That's a different process.
But if they're-
That's outside.
that's
the
also a
policy,
process
the
that needs to
ordinance.
be
That's right.
fixed, but
But
that's
I need
down the
somebody-
line.
I need somebody to explain. I'm just saying, this is what's gonna come up on the floor, John. It's only beginning.
well,
That people are
Sure.
gonna come up with this.
I agree. It's a,
Okay, so let me ask a question, and then maybe it's time to turn it to our guests who have been very patient. Thank you. My question is a little bit more in the weeds, I think, of how this would work. There's a project proposed for a street, and this process gets initiated, and if the town wants to get an exemption, there's a process for the exemption. But there's a whole lot of gray area between an exemption and a perfectly complete street, right? So how does that work, where maybe the town says, okay, we're going to bump out the sidewalk a little over here. And maybe people in the community might think, well, no, we need to put in a chicane and wide sidewalks and a roundabout. So what is the process for all of those decisions? How are those being made, and who's in charge of that, and what is the deciding, who's exempted, and who gets the last word, and how does somebody appeal, and all that stuff?
that is a great question. Best question of the day, in my opinion.
That's what you're at. That's what I was getting at.
So,
You said it better.
That's
Well,
a
no.
redesign, not an individual crosswalk.
right.
It's a big question.
Right, that's exactly right.
This
It's a
isn't telling anyone what they have to put in.
Right.
Mhm.
This is telling them they have to incorporate the process of determining, that what is applicable in the universe of complete streets concepts. That you're not just sending DPW out to pave that street. And so that's why it's not really as big a deal as you think it is. Now, if you get into a design manual, they will have to develop a design manual. So in the design manual, there will be a choice of things that you can do for different. I'm sorry, what? Priorities.
Well,
So,
and reasonableness.
Yes.
What's reasonable for that street? Not a little narrow street that goes to 5 houses. You're not going to put in crosswalks on it. So it depends on the traffic count and how wide it is and how many accidents there have been. There going to have to be a reasonable evaluation. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
So right now, it's a haphazard look if you've got time. Maybe.
Just to be.
So it's a change in mindset of having a design manual. We don't have a transparent manual of like what we think should go where in what circumstances, and really no one has any say or any visibility into the process. So they would have to have a transparent process of how they determine what complete streets infrastructure should go in where when a street is getting redone. That's why I don't think it's quite as big a deal. Really, for me, the biggest deal of this is the fact that they're going to have to take a person who's now working on all Bill's projects and say, you're the complete streets person. And that's a big, that's going to be a high visibility job.
That's a process change too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a response to a lot of residents and constituents. I mean, people have been pounding
I'm not
for this.
arguing that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a process change.
And there's
changes in operation, a process, a procedure, that's all.
across
That has to be
administration.
ironed
Honestly, I'm not sure there actually is a stable process right now. It's sort of, it's a little haphazard. If you call the police, you can call the police. It's sort of one process. If you call Bill Hurley, it's a slightly different process. So,
Even now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It's confusing even now.
It's really, if you've ever been through it, which you probably have.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, can we turn this over to our guests and let them each have a bite at the apple here? Can we want to just go around the room and each,
Yeah,
Sure.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
I just want to add a little bit of background when we.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Bill Pollack, and I helped co-author the complete streets policy, the 2018 policy that the ordinance is basically backing up. When we started that process of developing that policy with Laura and Andy Hayes, who's not here, but the first thing we did is go to all of the town bodies, because in many municipalities, it's actually a town body that creates the complete streets policy throughout the country. It's usually zoning department or it's a engineering department actually creates the policy, and then they kind of run the show. So when we went to zoning first, if I recall, with Jim Martin, and everyone was very supportive. We went to zoning, we went to public works several times. Obviously, Bill Hurley was a big part of the development of the policy. We went to the police commission, we went to the traffic safety unit, we went to conservation, I mean, you name it, we went to economic development. We talked with all the different departments, and it was like ringing endorsements from everybody. And then, so it became a bike ped-led development, so we worked on it, and everybody signed off on it. Obviously, went to the board of selectmen, so that everyone has seen it or had, a hand in the development of the town attorney as well at that time, 2018. Tweaked it, before it got endorsed by the board of selectmen. So we went through a pretty rigorous process. Now that obviously is different than an ordinance, but at the same time, that was the process. And one of the good things, I guess, is complete streets we're not the first municipality. We're not inventing this. This isn't something we're going to be the trial run for. It's been happening a lot of other municipalities in Connecticut, a lot of municipalities throughout the country, big ones, small ones. When we wrote the policy, we studied all different sized towns and municipalities that were developing these things. We focused on ones that were sort of similar in size to Fairfield, and older towns too, it's a little more challenging, older roads and things like that. So we looked at all of those things. But, we're actually in a little bit in danger, so to speak, of falling behind now. We had the policy, we were a little bit at the forefront, it was even highly ranked nationwide and all that. But now that was 5 years ago, and as Bill has noted, not a whole lot has happened since then. So now we're actually starting to fall behind some of these other municipalities, and now they're potentially getting grant money or other funds that we maybe should be getting or could be getting. So it does make sense that this is the next step to turn it into an ordinance or have an ordinance based on a policy. I can't speak to the timing and all that. I'm not an expert at all on the political side of it, but it's and as far as cost, it's always been understandably a subject of concern when in any municipality when we talk about complete streets. A lot of people all of a sudden assume every street in town has to be upgraded to roundabouts and the whole thing. That's obviously not what we're talking about. The policy is talking about. I don't see that as what is written in the ordinance. It's about when you're redesigning a street. It's about when you're changing a roadway. And a lot of times it's not very expensive. It's pavement markings, it's signage, upgrading that. If you are moving curbs, then let's put them in the right spot in the first place. Sometimes it's a lot more than that. There's
handicap ramp.
Handicap ADA. We did the Kings Highway project before the policy came out. Unfortunately, there was some missed opportunities, I would say, there. We had a little bit of input, but it's okay. I think professionals, I think, could have done one. They did the Black Rock Turnpike study, and if anybody is up to speed on that, there's a lot of complete streets improvements, and that was obviously done by a consultant, which I think is the right thing to do. When you have a major project in town, we should go out to a consultant. We shouldn't be overburdening our engineering department with those types of projects. So that's, I think it's the next step. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it keeps Fairfield in line for funding, keeps us in line for being livable and walkable, and there's countless studies out there. If anybody wants to look it up or read into it with Smart Growth America or all different kinds of other initiatives where they talk about the case study after case study after case study on if you're a livable, more walkable, or healthier community, people want to move there, property values, so on, and economic development. So there's a lot. There's a lot in it, obviously. So there's a lot of good things that come with it.
Would something as only trigger a change if it is being redone? Like, in other words, what if there are streets that more safety, signs and other things have to be put in, whether the street has to be paved or redone anyways, like, can that be proactively done?
Absolutely. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't prohibit.
Yeah, so it's not just when, okay, we're gonna redo a street, we have to.
No, but this is, the ordinance piece of it is requiring it be done when you redo a street.
Okay.
Because it would be too expensive to go out.
To just go and do everything everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, to the extent, there's accidents, the town would hopefully.
No, something like that.
Like on Reading Road now, they're talking about rumble strips. Now,
That's
that's different. Okay.
Free action areas,
Okay.
opposed to planning.
No, right.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely seemed to happen in other municipalities where they have a dedicated, complete streets, kind of, whether it's a commission or a committee or a person, or that's when you actually see things happen. New Haven has been doing it for 20 years. They've made a lot of improvements to Bridgeport.
So I'm curious, I was trying to figure this out, the towns that have traffic planning departments, they're, like Sanford has one, but they're twice the size of us. I wonder what the typical threshold is for population, but I don't think West Hartford has a traffic planning department. I still think the complete street people are under engineering, so.
But they're town people.
But they're, yes.
They're town employees,
Yeah.
which is different from
Norwalk,
here.
Norwalk, like 80,000 people, it's not that much bigger than us.
They have a department, right?
They have a whole department
And
and.
obviously,
like,
New Haven is,
commission, yeah.
these are people that have got their masters and PhDs.
Does anybody else in our guest group want
Well,
to?
I'm just gonna add a couple
Sure.
things. And we talked about all the towns we went to ask them how they did this, how it worked. I don't know how your what is it? It's not a committee, it's a commission. What is your body called? It's a town meeting, RTM.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know, okay, it's not anyway, you could potentially call in as a visitor, somebody from one of these towns and ask them how it works in their town, so everybody can learn, because this isn't new.
No, I mean, we have actually, if we want to do it on a wider basis, we could do that. I mean, we have done that already to develop this with people.
With a small group.
With a small group, right.
But I'm saying if it would help
Present it.
the whole RTM to hear more about how it works in practice, because I'm hearing most of the questions I'm hearing from you is how it actually would work for our town.
Maybe like a townwide, another forum.
Something like that.
Like at the library, but more focused on presentation, because your video was the one that you showed.
Oh, the film screening.
Was pretty awesome, yeah. But that was in Europe, right? Or no, it was in Phoenix as well. Yeah, all over. Yeah.
So I just wanted to make because Bill said so many things, I'd be repeating this. I just make another couple statements. My biggest issue was the fact that this policy never got any more than being endorsed. It wasn't even adopted, as the POCD calls it. It was just endorsed by the Board of Selectmen. Because it's lacking any measures to make sure it's done. Things like the performance measures to track progress, and also ongoing collaboration with other town bodies and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee as part of the compliance review process of new plans. None of that's being accomplished today. The proposed ordinance contains several provisions which will work to ensure such collaboration, as well as enhanced long-term planning. So, these are important ways to look at the overall impact the ordinance could have that's way beyond what the policy currently does.
Yeah, I can't speak to what happened in year one, but I certainly know now, whatever was done when you first did it, like if there was excitement, it's not happening now, right? So it just wasn't institutionalized. It's something that had to be done.
Right. About all it did, and you mentioned it, is it helped us get a few grants.
But that's probably, those days are gone now because everyone's got what we had. They may have copied ours, It was good. You guys did a really nice job.
And I will say, there were a couple things our bike head committee pushed for very specifically. But it really wasn't the complete streets policy that made it happen.
So I got it right. The big streets policy was helpful in a lot of ways. I think it did help us with funding back then.
Right.
It did get nationally recognized and it's kind of written up.
And that year was one of the top 10 policies adopted in the country.
I said that in my address in 2020.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And nobody was acknowledging it or following the policy. So.
Right.
That's not why we wrote it. We obviously we're hoping to get to this level, to be honest. We knew at that time there really wasn't an appetite for the ordinance.
Well, you're told that up front. So,
Sarah.
Yes, I know it's late, so I don't want to keep you all. I can email to Bill to share it with everybody, copies of an economic impact study by Smart Growth America about complete streets, and there's actually a cost per mile to build complete streets versus the average arterial road here. They studied 37 corridors that were given treatment with complete streets infrastructure, and there's a whole bunch of super fun graphs. I love graphs. So take a look. All these different corridors where more biking trips, more bicycle trips, when they adopted these complete streets infrastructure to these specific corridors. It also talks in that report about all the economic increase, comparing apples to apples, similar streets where there was complete streets infrastructure done to those with none. The complete streets infrastructure streets had an increase in employment, in retail revenue, food businesses, like it skyrocketed so you can bike and walk safely there, increases property values. But I was going to say, I feel that the reason that this has to be an ordinance and not just a policy to support what Bill and Laura have said, to give you a real life example, when I was on the Bike and Ped Committee, I was the chair for about a year. I sat down and met with Mega Jane, who's one of our engineers, and this was about 3 years into the policy being endorsed. And if you look at the policy at the back, there's this really great checklist, what the town is supposed to be using to evaluate a street. Are there crosswalks? What is the average? It goes through this whole checklist they're supposed to use, which Laura and Bill probably designed.
Have you ever seen it?
So she and I sat down to talk about something. She said, I have gone through all of our files, and I can find, this was 2021, I can find no record of this ever being used.
that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I was horrified.
All that work.
I know how hard these folks work. And so that is why it needs to go from an endorsed policy to an ordinance, because nothing is forcing this to be used. There needs to be a paper trail and a process of accountability. And my experience has been a deep resistance to that, in terms of my experience of working with the town in the complete streets policy. Deep resistance to actually, having some accountability for this policy. So that's why I
What year was that?
2021. I could pull my notes. I want to say it was January or February.
When they
2018.
The policy was endorsed in 2018.
September, I think.
Yeah.
Like January, February 2021, and she could find no paper trail of that date.
I don't ever remember anything happening.
It might be helpful to know, what this does beyond what the complete streets policy does now, or should be doing, or supposed to be doing. You said this is giving it teeth, right?
I mean, that's basically what it is.
Because, this is a 10-page document. You said you could boil it down in 3 paragraphs, really. So, in 10 pages, I'm not able to determine where it's going above and beyond the existing policy. I don't know the existing policy well enough, admittedly, to know what the new changes are here, other than it sounds like it's giving it teeth, right?
It's giving it teeth, it's giving it resource.
Okay. But is there anything else it's doing?
Metrics. as well, but, there were metrics in the policy that are not being.
But I guess if I have this question now, I'm sure other members will want to know, because they too aren't going to know necessarily the policy, the complete streets policy in detail. So they may ask,
Not that long.
Okay, all right.
No,
but even if we read it, you guys are now the experts at this. So for those who want to consider this and look at it and say, okay, well, existing policy now, it does this, this, and this. What is this now doing above and beyond that? And I know we talked about this for the noise ordinance too, but just people like to know if there's going to be change, what is the change? What is the impact of that change? What are the specifics of that change? That's all.
Doesn't it make it?
And I think it's 10 pages is tough to digest that and say, okay, well, on page 6, there's that change. I mean, make it easy for people.
You could put it in a summary.
It is
Absolutely.
policy. You need an ordinance to say this is what you have to do.
That's what I'm just
versus the
telling you
policy.
what people are going
Yeah,
to do. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but
on the,
make it easy for people.
Yeah, like an executive summary.
It's a good way
Yeah.
to present
Executive
it.
summary, so
Yeah.
we're for it.
Anya, did you want to say something?
I want to answer all questions and objections up front.
At that time.
Mine too.
Yeah, mine too. I'm ready.
Real short, I bike a lot around town. I have my kids on my bike sometimes. And I will advocate for anything that makes me feel safe doing it. Because every time I get on the road, I'm like, should I be having my kids on the bike? That's one. And two, I'll just mention, I just joined the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. I've only attended one meeting so far as a member. And one of the comments from the chair in that meeting was, oh, I feel really bad. We really haven't accomplished anything this year. And I mentioned that because, one of the things we're talking about is repurposing the committee because it feels like it doesn't feel like there's any real mission or teeth that the committee has. And I think it's about time we think of it.
Just on that, I did go back and look at the minutes for the last over a year, and it's upsetting.
It's just people sharing.
I'm sure that's why.
Decisions that are being made.
I stepped down partly because I felt like it wasn't designed to have.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, it's just not. It doesn't speak well for the town, and this is just being stuck. It's not something that is crazy. It's not something that good, well-run towns aren't doing. But I agree with you on one front, Ed. I don't think this is terribly complex, but I do think there may be lines that, a Jim Baldwin or, Jim Wendt are going to say, oh, you can't do it that way. And that's why I want to get this out. But I think big picture, this isn't something I could have worked with them to do because they lost their chance. And, they had a chance. It's never been them. It was Plato. It was, Plato could have forced the, adopting this instead of endorsing it, and Tetro could have too.
Tetro was the one who.
Well, the bike ped one, but the bike ped was endorsed as well. It wasn't. They're both endorsed. So, this is a long history of this town being stuck in the mud on this, and it's just too dangerous, and also it's bad for the town, economics and everything. So,
I would agree with you.
Let's go to Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, yeah.
Right. First of all, I want to thank all of you. It's 10:30, and you guys are all exceptional for being here, away from your families, what you do for the town. You care. I can tell everybody cares. And you guys are saying we didn't get anything done, but we're here right now. So you have to.
Yeah, that's
you want to do, but we're here. So back to the question. I'm a process guy. I'm a real estate developer, MBA, school, I'm an architect. And what the policy is up here. This is what we want to do. What we haven't done is created any sort of accountability or metrics. There's no, and back to why haven't the existing engineers done? They're busy. They're working on break fix. They're working on things that are urgent. This is not. This is more than a nice to do. It's something we should be doing to keep competitive, to make our town an attractive place. I've lived here since '95. I've lived away for 6 or 7 of those years. Seattle, Philadelphia area. I've seen what other places, how they've changed and what they're doing. My sister's lived in Seattle since '95. They had 0 bike impact back then. It's one of the leading in the country now. We haven't done anything here, and we have an opportunity. I love riding my bike here, but it's dangerous as hell. It's really, really dangerous. I was on Reading Road yesterday. You know, it's a beautiful place to ride a bike, but it's freaking dangerous. I see people walking all the time. I'm scared out of my life that they're going to get killed.
They're all walking on the wrong side of the road, by the way.
Well,
That's another thing.
We tried that in COVID and nobody listened.
Okay, so back to what's that story? When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago?
Exactly.
What's the second best time? Today. And what we're trying to do is plant a tree today. And this is not a big change. It's ambitious to have a tree grow 20 years in one day. You can't do that. But we got to start with accountability. And this is pretty minor. It's structural. It's a structural change to give accountability, to try to bring these different groups together, you know, engineering, planning. I think it should apply. I think it should report to planning because this is a planning issue. That's my 2 cents. But we're just trying to create a plan and accountability and a way to enact a vision to make our town better. Because I think a lot of people have been here for a while. Well, you kind of came and went, but my neighborhood, where I walk my dogs, I passed 40 houses. In COVID, I counted 15 new young people moving into my neighborhood. And they came from New York, they came from different places, and they're all saying the same thing. You know, I want to be able to walk, I want a coffee shop, right? They all say the same thing. You know, and this is our town's changing. And we need to, you know, reflect the change and the need, and people are living their lives differently now. You know, we're not just driving everywhere. So I think this is easy because we're not committing hundreds of millions of dollars tomorrow in this. We're committing to say, hey, let's think.
Be smarter.
And let's have accountability. Because right now there is no accountability at play. We're just saying, create an accountability, create a juncture between police and engineering, so there's a convergence of all those different issues. Because right now they're all going in different directions.
Thank you guys for all the hard work you've done. I really this is impressive.
Okay, so this body needs to, actually we need a motion. Could I have a motion on this item?
I move
So
to
moved.
report this out to the RTM for
Consideration. Form, not substance, so.
Well, we've debated that back and forth, and I think that it could be interpreted either way based on our previous actions, and so you can do what you want, I guess.
It's not going to change how much the time the body looks at it, you know, 2 sessions and how it's going to be carry over. I mean, that'll change, that'll stay.
You mean let's
We can't
September and
speed
October.
up the process of the body.
We can't.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
The body could.
They can't, the body could. If they want
Yeah.
to.
But I'm not saying that.
no, it gets held over anyway,
Yes.
so that can't change.
So what I'm saying is that
We can vote to waive that rule,
I
but
don't know, I've never known that.
we did it for the redistricting. But I'm not saying
Did we?
we have to do that, I'm just saying.
But for purposes of tonight, if you want to vote on form, that's fine. But people I've heard both things. I'm not sure.
But we didn't really go into.
We didn't go into form.
Actual documents.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not
So-
conform actually. Not too much.
So
Are
you
you-
think it's premature?
Well, I mean, there's even just like small. Can I just give some of the small changes to Bill before if it is submitted to the RTM?
Yeah, I think we generally are. I believe we would only hold something over if there were significant changes that we're looking for, not if there's,
Oh, okay.
you know, serial commas as you just talked about before, or Oxford commas, yeah. Or, you know, I think if we ask Bill to, I think we have asked Bill to take this to the town and share it with the leaders of the town departments. I don't think that requires us to hold it up either.
Mm-hmm.
In my
It can
opinion.
be amended on the floor.
Yeah, I think if we're comfortable with this.
Okay.
What are you saying, Jeff?
No, I mean,
You think they'll waive the rules? You think we're
to
going to do
bypass
that?
the process to get an ordinance approved, you have to waive the rules. Waive the rules, you know.
What do you mean? I'm confused. Wouldn't we look at September and then vote in October?
So this would, let's
Just
put the
needs to be on the agenda for 2 months.
Yeah,
for 2 sessions.
2
2
months.
months.
LA plus 2.
September and October.
September,
So
October.
this month, and then we do September, October.
Right.
So yeah. So
Yeah, let's do it.
Assuming it's approved.
What's the normal course?
which is wildly ambitious. I'm telling you.
In which case,
Don't underestimate. I mean, when this comes out, I go back to the noise ordinance. I mean, I was just like, oh, this looks pretty fun. So I got the police department now. I got this, I got that. I'm like, whoa.
in which case, it would restart with a new body.
But Karen, honestly, I think whatever happened here too.
Maybe. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you.
You don't have to listen to us bicker.
Thank you so much.
Jeff, thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming.
I can sit through so many.
I mean, you guys were all okay.
We
Thank you,
try
Jeff.
anyway.
Thank you, everybody, for what you do.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So sorry, do we have a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. You're taking us down, right?
Yeah, you have to write it down.
Any other discussion on a vote on this item?
Yeah, I think it's premature for the simple fact that it's right now I'm hearing a one-sided argument. It is compelling. But I just don't, this integrates so many departments. Well, it doesn't integrate, it affects so many departments. I'm only hearing that side of it. And, also too, when it comes to somebody like, the town attorney, I mean, just a simple thing, where do I go? Police commission this? I don't know. It just sounds like, from an LNA standpoint, it sounds like I'm stepping on some authority here.
We have a policy, though.
Drew, all I'm doing is saying.
No, I appreciate that.
I have no
I
clue
just
what this
want to go to bed.
this affects. I know, I've been doing this for years. I'm looking down the road and I'm like, oh, Jesus. Chairman of the police commission ain't going like this. And like you said, he's going to have a cow.
They said
that's what it is. And it's like, I really want to
he works for the town.
And why would he?
No, I'm not sure Jim's gonna have a cow.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but,
I'm just saying, guys, this is what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to say it might happen. It's going to happen. And I would rather hear from them up front because, I don't know, I see your approach here, burn down the wall to get change, but I'm like, I don't.
It's important.
It's burn down town hall is a really extreme thing for this.
No,
for this.
It's a metaphor. I'm just saying that
It's a little
I get what you're
It's
saying.
very dramatic.
yeah, I wouldn't want you to take that.
I get what you're doing, but I don't take that approach to initiate change.
But we're not doing anything. We already have a policy.
I'm sorry.
No,
that's
Yeah, I still think people are gonna want to hear from us.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing.
You talk to them, I know, but
we are.
others are gonna want to hear from them, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so.
That's why I'm a no vote, because I just know what's gonna happen.
Well, I would say that given the timeline of this term, I'm a yes vote, because maybe if we had more time, I might say, yeah, let's hear them at LNA, what Jim Went thinks and stuff. But I think we can also hear out the body. I don't think there's anything LNA is special that the body can't do that we can do here.
We've neutered LNA.
Who's neutered it?
It's not what it was.
Well, you're the one who said it shouldn't be something where we're changing language, right? So
it's just.
We used to do that. Right? Yeah, we did it a lot. So that's.
I'm trying to hold up an ordinance because I don't think it's ready for the floor because it hasn't been fully vetted by departments that it's going to impact, and you're not listening. So
no, we're listening, Ed. We're just not agreeing. I don't think
that's fine. But I'm just telling you, I've been doing this for years. I know it's going to explode on the floor.
Who's going to cause it to explode on the floor?
The people that it affects. Well, the police commission. I get what you.
The police commission. Why is it going to affect them?
They're in charge of all the roads. You want to put a speed bump in? You want to put a curb? You want to bump out a curb?
They've never been helpful to me when I've had an issue with the road.
Well, no, but they are.
That's philosophical.
That's a fact.
I get it. And this is what you're doing, and you expect it's not going to generate resistance on those bodies. You're wrong.
Okay, whatever. Fine. We'll see what happens, right?
Let's vote.
We're going to have to map it out, but if something explodes, we're going to have to come back. When something explodes.
And I think in terms of this ordinance, there's probably.
It's not. I'm just saying it's not effective management, guys. It's not effective leadership when you piss off the people that you're trying to get to work with. That's all, I just disagree with the management style here. You get more with honey. Bring them into the room. And I know you want to do this in 3 months, but if you bring them into the room, stretch it out into a year's process, it all work together. It's not. Here you are. You're going to burn down town hall. It's not going to work.
And you stretch it out to a year's process?
That's what something like this is going to take.
Huh.
Oh, whatever.
I'm just disagreeing. I'm hearing everything you're saying.
That's right. I know you disagree, but I'm just.
And you may be right, and maybe that's what happens. But I sort of feel like Josh
said.
said.
Go smooth.
My opinion is if I take the approach that you're talking about, this was never going to happen. So.
And that's their point, and I get it. I heard what you said. We played nice. I get it. And now it's at our level, and here we are, the implementers, and we have a great responsibility on us because we have.
Right.
We have to make change happen. But I want to do it in a conciliatory manner so I can maintain relations with these department heads and get them to do our will as opposed to ordering them to do it.
Just think about it. When this gets presented as time and all these different departments come in and they hear about it, they're going to have commentary on it.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to have commentary.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to get some of that commentary ahead of time, to get some of their sense of projection or what they agree with, group by group by group versus on the floor.
They work for the town. I'm just saying, we have worked with you guys on the noise ordinance.
But I think
we're talking about process.
I know, Jeff, because you're talking over me. I understand that. No, you think I talk more than you?
Okay. All right. Let's be productive here. Let's be productive.
That's familiar.
Let's be productive here.
I'm not trying to talk over you right now. I'm talking to Bill.
I am talking to the chair, and I'm saying, let's take a vote and let's go home.
But I'm just talking to Bill.
No, but I don't not understand what you're saying. My view, and I have no power here. Am I allowed to talk, actually?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my view is that if this doesn't get voted out and I start going around to the town departments, this never gets done.
Yeah.
So you call it burn down town hall, but I think it's really the way to get it done. And there may be, someone may explode. I really hope not, but I will start. Is there anything stopping me from talking to people?
No.
Starting tomorrow?
That's what they did.
Right. So, if I hear from somebody that, like Jim Wang says, you're going to blow up the town for XYZ reason, which I find it hard to believe, but I have to keep my mind open to that, and if they make a good case, I have to come back to you and say this should come back, I guess. But
I would think you'd want to do that just to get any objections up front and iron.
Oh yeah, no, I've been around
to work with the different groups to do that and get it ahead of it and be proactive about it.
But I would prefer it get voted out, and so I have a little bit of leverage that I don't think.
Okay.
Should we vote it out with the proviso that we're asking Bill or the sponsor to bring this to the various town departments, and that we are passing along to the RTM, with the understanding that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and for me that's the perfect solution because I would want to do that anyway.
Yeah, and then it gives us a little cover that we understand that needs to happen as well, as the body.
That's a good idea.
And
can I amend your motion, Leslie?
Yep. Okay. Josh.
Do I have a second on my amendment?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to talk more about this, or can we close the book? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Okay. For any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, 1 opposed and 1 abstention.
Okay.
The amendment passes. A vote on the amended motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, 2 against on this one.
Anybody on the phone that has the phone?
Nobody ever answered.
Yeah, are we good?
Yeah.
We're good.
I said Bill and Jim.
I didn't know.
Bill and Jim could be on, as far as I know.
Is anyone on the line?
There were
somebody.
actually.
There were 4.
Believe it or not, but no one said who they were.
Someone
Well,
was off.
I know some people were interested, like Tom Priscilla.
Well, no one's speaking up, so that's fine. I don't think I took a motion on the first item. Can somebody make a motion on the noise item so that we have it for the minutes, please? Drew, and a second. Jill.
We did have a.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was getting late. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, no problem.
Motion to
Thank you
adjourn.
for your.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.